Hey guys, Brad from Bradley Performance Products back with you again. A little information. I try to make videos to address things that we get phone calls about, right? That way I can, save you a phone call. Even though we're eager to talk with you, and I talk to people all day long, sometimes we can't get to everybody. So anyway, this is regarding our rear shocks. And so here's one of the shock bodies, the springs off of it. Here's the new short one. You can see the length difference. So we have our long travel shock bodies, and our new short one is for lowering the bike. It's 10 millimeters shorter than OEM, and it also has a 600-pound spring, whereas our two long travel shocks have a 700 and an 800. So addressing the questions I get, they say, well, how do I set this up? How do I adjust it? What do I need to do? The first thing you obviously need to do with any rear suspension adjustments is set your sag. So you would set your sag is adjusted by adjusting the preload on the spring, and it obviously raises the bike up and lowers the bike. And what should that number be? You should be measuring from the center of the axle up to a point directly north of the axle. It's going to be somewhere on the rear fender, about in the back of the seat, something like that. But that measurement, with you standing or sitting in the middle of the bike, subtracted from the extended length. So you would pick the bike up, take that measurement with the suspension sagging, then you would take that measurement again with you sitting on the bike where you would normally sit, or with you standing where you would normally stand. Subtract the lesser of the two, and that number that is left is your sag. It's probably going to be 30 millimeter, 35 millimeter, 50 millimeter. And that sag number is going to be specific to you and your needs and how the bike is being used. And I would change the sag number depending on if you normally carry a passenger, carry luggage, things like that. But general rule of thumb is 25 to 30% of your usable travel should be your sag. So if you've got 6 inches of travel on a T-dub, you should have 1 3/4 to 2 inches of sag. But anyway, so to set your sag, you do that with the preload adjustment, which is just these two jam nuts that you're gonna move up and down. The top one's just a locking nut, and you will move this up and down to put tension or remove tension from the spring, and you will do that to set your sag. Next, now that it's installed and you've set your sag properly, which again, most people don't ever adjust the sag because usually we think that they're pretty right for most people right out of the box. So most people aren't even measuring sag, but we try to get them as close as we possibly can. Next, your air pressure. We have another video on air pressure. This is nitrogen charged. You can use nitrogen to adjust the air pressure if you want. I use air just for the purpose of making small adjustments or for topping off. You can do this with, like I said, there's another video that we show. We use like a KTM fork pump, like this one right here, that's just a low volume, high pressure pump. It's common for mountain bikes these days, for bicycle tires, any low volume hand pump that'll go high pressure. So this pressure should be between 75 PSI and 125 PSI. If it gets below 75, the shock will tend to become clunky, like you'll think something's loose back there. You'll just get kind of a clunk, and that's an indicator of low gas pressure. And if you go too high, obviously you can blow out seals and things like that, so don't go too high. But 75 to 125, I run mine maxed out at 125 PSI because what does it do? The higher the gas pressure, the higher the dampening of both compression and rebound. So the shock is going to have stiffer compression and stiffer rebound, both directions, the higher the pressure. So the gas pressure is something that you'll set second after you've installed it and set the preload, set your gas pressure. And now the rebound adjustment, which is the screw on the bottom. When you screw the screw all the way in and it bottoms out, don't try to over tighten it, just lightly let it bottom out. that is the slowest rebound possible. So you'll notice if you do that on your shock, you tighten this all the way down, push the bike down, it will just very slowly come back up at a very slow rate. And as you come out with this screw, it clicks. As you start coming out on the number of clicks, your rebound will be faster. And I think I generally am in that 4 or 5 clicks out range on my personal bike. So anyway, next thing to address when discussing the rear shock installation is that you are so dramatically changing the characteristics of the rear suspension. You're adding travel, adding spring rate, adding dampening. If you don't do something in the front to match, the bike's going to feel real out of balance. It diminishes handling. So like for example, if you have our HD version of this, it has heavier valving and a heavier spring. It has the 800-pound spring. With that heavy spring rate on a longer shock than stock anyway, when you install it, it is automatically going to be about 2 inches high in the back, which is going to lessen the amount of rake and trail in the front forks. It's going to make the bike twitchy, make it fast to turn in. It's going to diminish the handling. It's also going to feel very soft now because you've gone to such a heavier rear suspension. The front end is going to feel very soft. So I would always match suspension changes with corresponding changes to the other end of the bike. So if you put on the HD shock, for example, I would recommend heavy front springs. And since you are lifting the rear of the bike, you need to do something in the front to lift the front back up, to put the rake and trail angle back in, to keep the handling correct. So we would recommend at least the 0.6 kilogram front springs, probably 0.7 for most cases, and also the fork extensions. So the fork extensions pairs really great with our HD rear shock because now the bike is going up front and rear 2 inches to keep the handling where it should be, keep the fork angle correct. On our off-road shock, it's the same length, so it's a long travel shock, but it only has a 700-pound spring, so the amount of lift that you get at the rear of the bike is really minimized. When you install it straight out of the box, it's only about 5/8 to 3/4 of an inch higher at the back of the seat. But you still are lifting the bike slightly in the back, and so you would want to, again, match that with some springs, or preloaders or fork extensions in the front. Same thing with the lowering rear shock. If you put this on, the bike's going to be lower in the back, which is going to cause more rake and trail in the front forks. And so you're probably going to want to loosen the triple clamps and slide the forks up through the triple clamps, say 10 millimeter to start, and see how you like it, because the additional trail is going to cause the bike to be slow to turn in. It's going to be real stable at speed, but it's going to be so slow to turn in that it's going to feel lazy in the like in the woods and technical situations. So anyway, I hope that's clear as mud. I wanted to address some of those issues so that you have a video to watch, because we get calls all the time with suspension questions. So I hope that helps, and like, comment, subscribe, whatever, and we'll try to address any other questions that you might have in a later video. I appreciate it. Thanks again for all your support. See you next time.